experience to heal yourself, or in this instance, let go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, in the traditional sense of shamanism, not in the California West Coast sense of the shaman, is the shaman is one who has gone out and had their journey, and who can now walk in both the physical and the spirit realm. And it's not clergyman, someone who has studied or who has been anointed by anything. They have been anointed by their experience.
Wow, thank you for sharing. That's a good contrast to see the clergy versus the shaman.
Yeah.
Something else you said was
that was from Joseph Campbell, by the way.
Well, hey, you know what? That's cool. God bless Joseph Campbell wherever he's at, hanging out. He might even be hanging out with us right now. I don't know. I think of that dude a lot.
I like that guy.
But one of the other things you said is, something about, being still hurt.
Yeah.
Like you're not okay with the parts of you that are still hurt. And I'm wondering, is that programmed by outside influences that tell us that, well, you're supposed to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to always be in a state of bliss and joy and gratitude and happiness. God forbid you ever get fucking sad.
Yeah, I do have a lot of respect for the community that is focused on positive thinking and gratitude and growth from that perspective and those practices. For me, there's times when I feel like gratitude and appreciation and finding the joy is not applicable, especially when there's something that is painful and that's within me, that's crying out to be heard. And I think honestly, I can't say that I've completely resolved this within myself. I still feel this little dilemma, I'm not supposed to feel sad about certain things that have happened in my life that were in the past. And maybe that's a get over it mentality, or maybe it's the way that I've interpreted or listened to other teachers who really talk about the gratitude and appreciation and raising your vibration and focusing on all the good stuff in your life. Because I've been in places where I felt like everything was going to shit, like I've been in places where things were where even thinking about positive thinking was not within my capabilities or my realm of experience at that moment or in time. Now I don't feel that way. Now I feel like I'm very positive. I am happy. I'm enjoying my life. But there's still things in my life that hurt. And there are still times when when they come up for me to process. Now, looking at my journey, I feel like, I've processed so much through certain aspects of an experience. And I guess there's a part of me sometimes that wants there to be an end point when I'm totally fine with that experience. And I guess what I think about it is, if I were to look at some of the experiences I had as a child and didn't really feel anything, would that be healthy? Because if I saw that happening to somebody else right now, I would be infuriated. I would run to their aid. I would feel something. So could I really have memories of abuse and not have a feeling? Now, I think there's a difference between having a feeling and being victimized by your past experience. And there's a difference between expressing those emotions in an empowering way versus allowing that unresolved trauma to rule your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating. Again, you throw out so many things that my brain is just speeding. Thank you. One of the things that I hear you saying is recognizing the language at which you speak about past experiences is a way for you to sort of integrate those experiences into you without them being one of these walls that we were speaking of. That's fascinating because that's one of the things I notice is the language. So let's take something like depression. I think that's a fairly common thing in society right now, is that at some point almost everyone you know is battled with some level of depression, and so if we stop and talk about this for a second, and the language that we use when we're going back to those places, instead of saying I am depressed, is it possible if I drop the am and say I experience depression, or I'm having the experience of depression, as opposed to taking ownership over it?
Or identifying with it.
Right? Mm-hmm. So now there's no longer like I equal depression. It's just, I'm experiencing. I had this experience, or, child molestation, or physical or mental abuse, or whatever, infidelities. I was a cheater. I'm a cheater, right? But you're not, right? I can speak in some of my past relationships. Wasn't married, but I had, girlfriends that I said I'd be committed to, and I wasn't. But I'm not a cheater. I've never cheated on you once. It's never even crossed my mind. So therefore, to carry that around and say I am a cheater would be, wow, what a weird prison to put myself in.
Yeah.
Or to say I am an alcoholic, but I haven't had alcohol in 20 years.
Yeah,
Right? What a weird you are. You had an experience with alcohol. You had an experience with going outside your relationship. You had an experience with molestation. You had an experience with depression. It's not you.
Right.
It's not you. You are not your experiences. Period. In discussion. Don't try to debate it. You are not your discussion. Or you are not your experiences.
Yeah, which I think is a beautiful perspective on letting go, is kind of shedding these negative identities that we have based on our past experience or even our current experience.
Yeah.
And recognizing I'm not that. I'm not this.
One of the things I've heard multiple spiritual teachers say, and it's something that my coaches actually said, is that if you realized who you really were, like your absolute beauty, if you had a moment, like 1 second where it popped in your brain of how absolutely brilliant you are, and how like you would die on the spot, it would be such an overwhelming realization that it would kill you if you knew how awesome you were all at once. Wow. And I hear that, and I just have to remind myself of that. I have to remind myself that, as I'm going through my various ways of, understanding letting go, I have to remind myself that there's a whole aspect of me that I can't even see, But I kind of took us off a side there, and so I want to throw us back into it. Yeah, thank you. And one of the things you said is you're kind of always looking for an end point, right? Like, I find it's interesting that sometimes we chase this healing. I want to be healed.
Yeah, it's like, what does that even look like?
ED, like the capital ED
totally.
underline,
I've done that.
Healed.
I think parts of me still do that.
And then you're like, or, I've been healed. And then all of a sudden a month later it comes up and you're like, wait a minute, I healed this. Right?
Yeah.
I healed this.
I thought I healed this.
Why is this coming?
Yeah.
I let this go. Right?
Well, you get to do it again.
Right. I've been doing all my affirmations. What is this coming back up?
Well, and that I think also is, something to be said about affirmations that's not always talked about. When you start saying affirmations faithfully, and you start even focusing on gratitude faithfully, and you start meditating faithfully, shit's gonna come up. I think sometimes, well, it's been my experience that I'm like looking, oh, well, everything's gonna be great now because I'm doing this. And yeah, everything is gonna be great because you're doing it. But part of getting to that greatness, that feeling of being more empowered and more of a participant in your life is allowing all that stuff that's weighing you down to come to the surface. At least that's been my experience.
And so what I hear you saying is holding on is a burden.
Yeah.
It's a burden. Continuing to hold yourself to an experience, a secret, an obligation, these things are all burdens. And so is it possible for me to be free as long as there's these aspects of me that I'm refusing to address?
Yeah, no.
Can I be free if I'm not willing to even look at my own aspects of myself that I'm not comfortable with, or that I'm not comfortable with other people knowing, because we all make this general assumption that everybody else is perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody else has
any problems.
Not compared to my shit.
Yeah.
Right? My shit is like Grand Canyon mega shit. You know, and if people knew these things about me, they would just go ahead and stone me. They'd burn me at the stake.
Yeah, and then
because they're perfect.
Right, and we're not realizing that everybody else is feeling the same way
Right.
about you too.
We're all walking around terrified, shaking in our freaking Vibrams, right? That somebody is going to find out this dirty little secret about us.
Yeah.
And you know what I have found out in my experience? That when I allow myself to present that little secret, the person that I share it with goes, yeah, I think that way too. Or I had that experience too. Or it's funny you bring that up because blah, blah, blah. And oh, wow, how about that? Through sharing, through letting it go, through allowing it space to be, vibrated through my throat chakra and out into existence, I find that the person that I'm sharing it with, we have more similarities than we do differences. That, wow, you know what? Maybe this idea of perfection and the perfect person, what if it doesn't exist? What if we're all just a bunch of scared kids walking around with secrets? And how awesome would it be if we started making it acceptable to share our secrets? Think about the amount of disease, physical disease, I'm talking about physical disease, that would disappear from our society. Think about the amount of suffering, emotional and mental suffering, that we medicate.
Yeah. Yeah.
That we try to silence with synthetic drugs.
Yeah.
Instead of allowing it to come up, because we're so afraid if I talk about it, I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be this bad human being. So I just take drugs. And I just keep getting sicker. So now I'm on another drug. And now I'm, what?
Yeah.
And really the only thing that you probably really need to do is have a powerful conversation.
Yeah, we're a big, huge meltdown.
What? I've said it. I don't know who's the first person to say it, but I think that breakdowns are breakthroughs. I think that, just like you said, maybe you do need to sit on the couch and cry all day. And stop letting go of what it means to cry. Start letting go. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
I just, I get excited, but stop, I remember one of my language professors, a communication or something in school, said, humans are meaning-making machines. And so we make meanings behind our actions all the time. So if I sit down and cry, if I express in a healthy way my anger, then I'm weak, I'm